Alrighty, so just like the review of the last Leeds Cup, where I did it right after the next day after all the Leeds Cup action is over, it's going to be the same thing here. Where today I'm going to be looking at the Leeds Cup action from yesterday. I'm doing this right before we have another busy Wednesday night action in terms of the Leeds Cup, so I'm going to go relatively quick in terms of talking about these games, so I don't miss some of the action for these Leeds Cup game that's happening on Wednesday. And as always, I'm going to actually just do 3 games out of 5 from yesterday in a detailed review. I'll of course mention the other 2 resort, and we definitely had some big upset once again, and certainly a record-breaking goalkeeping performance that happened in this game as well. But most importantly, we also had the first team that got eliminated from the Leeds Cup in this year tournament, and we'll talk about which team that of course got eliminated from the Leeds Cup. The good news, at least if you're a Montreal fan, is that it's not them. Because in the first game we're going to talk about between them and Atletico San Luis, man, Montreal, they don't make things easy for them, do they? And I would say that this was actually a really good performance by Atletico San Luis. It looks much better compared to what we saw last year, where yeah, last year they got absolutely hosed by the New England Revolution 5-1 in that game, and then they lose to the Union. Not by that score, but something similar to that as well. They were not they were looking like one of the worst team in the Leeds Cup representing Liga MX, but they definitely put up more of a fight in this game against Montreal. They actually had the first shot of the game that saw Celis puts it wide after just a bad turnover from Montreal, and then Martinez had the first shot from Montreal, but he missed wide there. Vitinho then hits one wide from the curler. I thought Montreal had turnover problem early in this game, and that would be a theme too as the game goes along, where there was just so many times they were turning the ball over in bad spot. One of those came in the 16th minute where Siwas had to deny Komovic after just another bad turnover for Montreal. But the good news for Montreal, despite the fact that they were committing so many turnover on the other end, they were pretty lethal going for it on the attack too, at least early on, because in the 17th minute, Tom Pierce would score his first goal for Montreal and making his debut as well in this game from Bryce Duke to give Montreal a 1-0 lead. I forgot to mention that that's his first career goal for Montreal. The shots were actually 6-3 for San Luis early on, but on the fourth shot for Montreal, it's in the back of the net as Kokoro would score from Tom Pierce to give Montreal a 2-0 lead. So yeah, Tom Pierce, what a dream debut, getting a goal in and assist in this game for Montreal. And then it looked like it was going to get even better for Montreal because a penalty was given to them after Sanchez, the San Luis goalkeeper, brought down Cockrell in the spot. So Cockrell won the penalty. He steps up to take the penalty and look to put this one to become a bit of a laughter early on. But instead, Sanchez has other idea. He redeemed himself by denying Cockrell from the spot. It's a really a good penalty there from Cockrell. But that being said, I also thought that even with this 2-0 lead, will that missed penalty kick come back to haunt Montreal? Because we saw last year where they were looking very well against Pumas in the Leeds Cup, and then they just completely self-destruct late in the game, giving up 2 late goals to Pumas, and eventually, they did win the PK shootout, but as we saw last year, them winning the PK shootout actually come back to haunt them with the way that they didn't get all 3 points, and they just missed out on the round 32 by a point, and if they would have won that game in regulation, they would have moved on into the next round. So, in the second minute stop time, Vitinho would cross it high from long range before Moreno would cross it wide from close. San Luis was definitely pushing late to try to get one back, but the finishing up to that point has kind of let them down. But we do head to halftime with Montreal leading 2-0. In the 48th minute, though, in the second half, Siwas would deny Vitinho from close before San Luis had most of the possession. They were looking to try to get one back. Cockerell would hit one into the stands before Sanchez would denied Duke from close range, and then he denied Opoku from close. As I thought Montreal now look like they have kind of woke up again. They were pressing to try to put this game away to look for a third goal, but instead, in the 75th minute, a penalty was given to Atletico de San Luis as Boley was brought down by Waterman there in the box. By the way, San Luis is another team to have a couple former MLS player. Frank Boley, of course, used to play for the Portland Timbers. In fact, both of the goals that Atletico San Luis score in this game were by former MLS player, and as I said, Frank Boley is one of them. He buries it from the spot after winning the penalty to make it interesting. And again, is this deja vu all over again for Montreal? They blew a 2-0 lead against Pumas late last year, and that turns out to be fatal of them not moving on into the next round. Though Duke did fires it wide off of a deflection in the 79th minute, but then in the 82nd minute, they make sure there's no repeat of a 2-0 lead blown as Sanusi Ibrahim would score from Juan to make it 3-1 in favor of Montreal. That goal also comes up to be big for Montreal later in this game as well. But Lassiter did look for a fourth, but he missed wide there. We then had some coming together between both of these teams because this is an MLS versus Liga MX game. You're always going to get some coming together that happen. But a penalty was given to St. Louis late in this one as VAR deemed that Waterman brought down in the box there. So yeah, another their former MLS player played for San Luis. Jurgen Damm used to play for Orlando United, and just like what we saw, Boley won the penalty and he gets the reward of taking it. Jurgen Damm gets the reward of taking the penalty, and he buries this one in the 13-minute of stoppage time. There was a very long VAR look. That's why the penalty wasn't taken until deep into stoppage time. And again, the good news for Montreal is that by the time they reset play, the referee already blew for full time whistle. So that was a little bit too little too late for Atletico San Luis to uh to somehow do what Pumas did last year to Montreal. But yeah, in the end for Montreal, a big 3-2 win in this one. As I said, the Ibrahim goal that was huge too, because if they didn't get that goal, this would have ended in a 2-2 draw, and that this one would have gone to a PK shootout. But the shots in this one, 19 shots clear to 15 that Montreal had, 6 shots on goal for the 7 that Atletico San Luis had, 5 shots off target for the 7 that Montreal has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Atletico San Luis had, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Montreal has in this game. And really, I thought Atletico San Luis at point of this game, they looked like they were the better team. And again, Montreal, I think in the end they'll be very happy the fact that they won this game. I'm pretty sure Laurent Courtois will be happy the fact that they got a win. Consider winning games hasn't been something that Montreal has done a lot lately, and at least they stay alive in terms of still have a chance to move on. But they'll definitely need help from Orlando City. Well, they got to clean up their defense. I mean, their defense was not good whatsoever. The amount of turnover that they committed in this game, and the way that they gave up those cheap goals with the penalty. I mean, this was a really rough game for Joel Waterman of him giving up 2 penalty late in this one. That can't happen if they want to go into the round of 32 potentially, and maybe do something in this tournament. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is Dane Sinclair versus Necaxa. Now, over the year, I have seen some incredible goalkeeping performance. I mean, I still remember the Tim Howard heroics against Belgium. Well, I wouldn't say it was kind of a heroic because the U.S. would end up losing that one, but everyone remembered the 16 save performance that Tim Howard had against Belgium in the 2014 World Cup. I also remember the Maxime Crepeau 16 save performance against the Quakes, also on a losing cause. In fact, I was actually there to see in person. And then I still remember when FC Cincinnati beat the Fire when they were still in USL, and Mitch Haniger had a Secretary of Defense kind of goalkeeping performance against the Fire. And then even more recently, I know that Andrew Tarbell, who didn't play a single minute for Houston, coming in for one game and put up probably the best performance he have ever had in his career in that one. And all out of all those goalkeeping performances I mentioned, I think this performance by Dane Sinclair is going to be right up there, if not close to being the best goalkeeping performance I have ever seen a player has done. Because my oh my, and this is the thing about Dane Sinclair. As much as at times I get frustrated about Dane Sinclair of his inconsistency, and at times he does look maybe a little below par as an MLS goalkeeper, when he's on, he is definitely on, and he was definitely on in this game, and then some against Necaxa. Now, early on in the first half, a penalty was given to Minnesota after VAR deemed that Arce brought down Minsavi in the box there. That gives a chance for Robin Lod to step up to take the penalty, and he buries it. So that gives Dane Sinclair and Minnesota United a one nothing lead. Though the Necaxa player, they were not happy. The fact that they feel like Taniolo Ashari actually entered the box too early before the penalty was struck, and they had a good argument for that. On the replay, it definitely looked like Tani encroached there, and yeah, I think the Loons got away with that one there. I was a little surprised the fact that they didn't go back to check there. Yes, I know the penalty, of course, was buried, but you cannot have a player that encroach there, no matter if the penalty is buried or it's saved by the keeper. In fact, if it's saved by the keeper and Tani was the one to get there first, there is no doubt they're gonna go and look at, and it's going to be called back because again, you cannot encroach and enter the box before the ball is being struck by the penalty kick taker. So that being said, in the 11th minute, Oluwashari would puts it wide from close range before he went in on goal here, but just missed wide there. The good news for him is that the flag came up, so that goal wouldn't have counted if it went in. But I thought it was a strong start for the Loons. They were looking to try to get more goals in this game, but unfortunately, that pretty much is it in terms of their attack, or at least for most part of it. Because in the 21st minute, Hugo Bakara would get himself sent off in this one. Because of course, a Minnesota United player would get himself sent off in a Leagues Cup. Like I swear that it's like clockwork when it comes to Minnesota and getting red cards. It has happened pretty much almost every single Leagues Cup game. We saw it happen last year as well, and it's happening again this year. I mean, two straight game now that I've seen a Loons player getting sent off because of red card, and some of them were for some silly reason. I mean, the Dotson one last time was kind of silly. This one maybe is less so because yeah, Baccarat he had to make a last ditch lunge to try to get to it, but he got it wrong there. So yeah, no doubt it was a denied goal score opportunity, and he's probably very lucky the fact that it was just a free kick too because it was very close of potentially being not only a dog so red card but also a penalty for Nakaksa as well. In the 20th minute, Monreal would blast it high from long range. I thought overall Minnesota kind of defended well up to that point. Yeah, that would change as we go, especially into the second half. Dane Sinclair in the 41st minute would deny Monreal from long range before Rosales would hit one right to Unsane. And then Dane Sinclair on the other end denied Palavencio from long range, and then Monreal just missed one on a diving header there. He was wide open in the back post. Set piece defending, once again, a problem for the Loons in this game. And it's been a problem in the last couple of games. And one of the reasons why I think they've been struggling so much on defending set pieces and defending balls coming into the box. They're not getting to the first ball every time. One of the key thing when you defend set pieces and even defending balls coming into the box as a defender, you have to get there first because if you do not get there first and you let your opposition either a chance to head it in or try to flick it into the dangerous area, that's when the vulnerability has had. And I'm really hoping Eric Ramsey will drill that to his defender because the amount of times that the Loons have missed out on those 50-50 balls in the box, it is very alarming. And again, it was the case again where they were not getting to those 50-50 ball and not getting to those ball coming into the box first and letting opposition to do so. But we do head to halftime with Dane Sinclair and Minnesota leading 1-0. In the second half, it looked like it was all tied up when Paradella puts it into the back of the net, but unfortunately the goal was disallowed because the ball went out of play, and it was very close. I mean, it was just maybe inches away of just being out, but I think there was one definitive angle that it looked like the ball did went out of play. So yeah, the goal of course didn't count. And that seems like it was a wake up call for this Loons defense because they look very vulnerable at the back. It definitely didn't look like they got that wake up call as well because for the rest of the second half, this defense was pretty much fall asleep, and it was this is when the Dane Sinclair show was about to start. Rosales would go for goal there, but he missed high before some more bad news for Minnesota when it comes to injury. I mean, this team, as much as I've been always mentioning about this team being shorthanded, I mean, it's true. I mean, this team has just been hammered by injury left and right, and the latest setback is seeing Tani getting be subbed off due to a hamstring injury. And again, that is the last thing the Loons needed, knowing how important Tani is to this team, especially on the attack. But like I said, this is when the Dane Sinclair show begin. First he robbed Rosario from point blank. Again, Dane Sinclair once again standing on his heads as the Loons continue to have set piece problem. He would then deny Paradella from long range, and then he denied Oliveros from close as the shots were now up to 19-5 for Necaxa, and 11 of them was on target. And this is where I started to kind of, for those of you wondering, was I really stressing out at some point of this game? I would say I kind of started to stress out late in this one. I wasn't really stressing out around this point. In fact, I kind of just had a bit of a chuckle and almost kind of feel very surreal to see how Dane Sinclair just basically went super novel at up this point because in the 69th minute, nice. He would rob Montez from point blank, and this is when I just said it's not Minnesota versus Necaxa anymore. It's basically Dane Sinclair versus Necaxa, and it's literally about Dane Sinclair to see if he is going to be beaten by any of these Necaxa player, and up to that point, it was a definite no, and it continued. He denied Montez again from long range. I'll tell you what, Montez and all these Necaxa attacker, they must have nightmare about Dane Sinclair, even to this day. But in the 74th minute, Combino would hit one right to Dane Sinclair. The record must be broken now in terms of the most save in the Leeds Cup because up to that point, I think it was like 14 saves that Dane Sinclair has had, and I thought soon maybe by an MLS team because the record by an MLS team is 16 saves by Maxime Crepeau against the Quakes a couple of years ago. Then in the 75th minute, Dane Sinclair would rob Bindo from point blank because yeah, why not? That's been kind of the story in the second half. It was just the Dane Sinclair show versus the Necaxa attack, and then he tipped Gomez shot from long range. The record I found out was 16 for MLS team, and Dane Sinclair up to that point was one away because that save that he had from Gomez shot was his 15th save of the game. And then Pookie would put it wide as I feel like it was the first shot for Minnesota in the second half. That actually is not true. Rosales did had a shot there, but it felt like an eternity since Minnesota had attacked. Like for the last what up to probably when Tani got subbed off, the ball was basically in Necaxa attacking end. Like Minnesota just they just could not get the ball away from them. I mean, I mentioned many times about Rohimo with Minnesota. That was Rohimo and then some when it comes to how they just hung on for dear life and just prayed that Dane Sinclair would just go supernova as we saw up to that point. Though the post would then deny Combino as he was in on goal there because of course the post would get in the way. Necaxa was just completely snake bitten up to this point. Olivero then hits it right to Dane Sinclair, which actually ties the record for the most save that an MLS goalkeeper has ever had in a single game with 16 save, and also extending the Leeds Cup record up to that point. And also, by the way, he's also long past Vito Manone in terms of club record in terms of 11 save. Manone had an 11 save performance a couple of years ago. Well, Dane Sinclair is pretty much far past that up to this point. Paradella then missed wide from close range, and really as the time winds down, it is still all hands on deck. The Loons were just trying to hold on for dear life. And again, this is where I really got nervous because as much as it Dane Sinclair has put in a probable performance, this is where the Loons are at its most vulnerable. This is where, for the last couple of games, they have conceded goals right at the end, and I thought it was going to happen again. But miraculously, it didn't happen. In the end, Minnesota and Dane Sinclair specifically pull off just an improbable win in this one. A 1-0 win against Necaxa. The shots in this one look like something you see a FIFA Ultimate Team glitch happen. 34 shots compared to just 7 that Dane Sinclair team has. 2 shots on goal compared to 16 that Necaxa had in this one. 5 shots off target compared to 3 that Dane Sinclair has. 2 shots that was blocked with a 4 that Necaxa had. And possession-wise, 64% possession compared to 36% possession that Dane Sinclair team has. Just incredible. Absolutely incredible performance by Dane Sinclair. Gonna go down as one of the greatest goalkeeping performances we have ever seen, not only in Leeds Cup, but by an MLS goalkeeper in general. And I know, obviously, the big talking point coming out of this game, obviously, is the defense by this team. And I mean, after this performance, I probably even have more concern about how bad the defense is, and that they got really lucky that Dane Sinclair decided that this was a game where he's gonna go supernova and had a career game. And not to mention, injuries is still gonna stack up to this team. I mean, without Taniolo Shoyi and also down another defender with Bakura not being available in the next game, and the same goes for Dotson, who get an additional game of suspension. There is a huge concern if they do even get to the round 32. It doesn't seem like they're likely to move on into the next round. But honestly, at that point, I didn't even think about that. I just think about this performance and that this win, this is I think is gonna go down as one of the the best win, and one of the win that I really salivate for a long time as a Minnesota United fan, because again, this was just, it was so surreal to see how Dane Sinclair was on such a heater like that. And now let's just hope that maybe this won't go to waste, especially now, like what I said about Montreal relying on Orlando to be able to get them to move on to the next round. Minnesota will have to do the same thing. Hope that Seattle will beat Necaxa so they can move on into the round of 32. But yeah, again, like I said, what a performance this was from Dane Sinclair and for Necaxa. I mean, I don't know what to say. They are just like they did everything right in this game, and the only thing that they didn't do right is somehow beat Dane Sinclair. Now, moving on, in terms of the last game that I did watch fully and did a detailed review, is LAFC versus the Vancouver Whitecaps, because of course this game went to a PK shootout. Like I swear, last year I mentioned in the Leeds Cup, I feel like all these late games not only will have a Leeds Cup after dark effect, but all these games has to go to the PK shootout just so that I won't be able to do a review right after the game. And it feels like it was mission accomplished again, because I'm doing this review the day after all these games finish instead of right after when this one is over. But yeah, this was a game where for Vancouver, they blew it. They pretty much did the same thing similar to what Montreal did to Pumas last year. They were up 2-0. Looked like they were on their way to get all 3 points, and then just kind of self-destruct late in this one. Now, in the first half, Oliveira would put it high from long range, but in the 5th minute, Berhalter would score the opening goal for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and we know Sebastian Berhalter can definitely strike get well from long range, and he did it again. What a volley of a goal here, just a laser beam into the bottom right corner to give the Whitecaps a 1-0 lead. And Vancouver continue to push to try to get another. They had the momentum up to the point. It almost felt like that goal that Berhalter scored completely shocked LAFC. They look very out of sort and just doesn't look like an LAFC team that we've seen in the past. In fact, in the 17th minute, Vancouver would make it 2-0 as Veselinovic would score from Berhalter to make it 2-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. BMO Stadium must be absolutely stunned because they were expecting to see another dominant performance by LAFC, but yeah, they find themselves now 2-0 down. And in some way, I would also say that, LAFC so far in this Leagues Cup, it has not been good enough for them. Yes, I know they won 3-0 against Tijuana, but even looking back at that performance, there were times where Tijuana were the better team and LAFC was on the ropes a bit, and in this one, they were definitely on the ropes with them. Now down 2-0 in this one. Oliveira did look to get one back, but he missed wide there before Duenas would hit one right to Balmer in the 33rd minute, and then the post would deny Bogusz from close range. LAFC, I thought, started to get into this game. They were looking to try to get one back, though, for Mate Bogusz. He was absolutely snake bitten in this game, and he would turns out to just have a nightmare game in this one as well. Though that being said, in the 43rd minute, well, I said he would have a nightmare game. He did score the late equalizer in this one, so not really a nightmare game, but mostly in some crucial moment as well. But LAFC, as I said, they get into this game. They were looking to try to get one back. Bomer would deny Oliveira in the near post before Oliveira would put it wide in the near post in the 44th minute, as it looks like Kike Oliveira back to his old self, where for a while he was actually being able to finish those good chances, but now lately, especially in this game, yeah, it looks like he was back to being snake bitten, unable to put the ball into the back of net despite him getting into good position. And I also thought that Vancouver need halftime because LAFC really was starting to knock on the door and trying to get one back, but instead they almost made it 3-0 when White was in on goal there, and you would definitely bet that Brian White would put it away, but he puts that one wide, and really LAFC continue to have no answer in terms of Vancouver transition. It feels like Vancouver was giving LAFC a little taste of their own medicine with the way that LAFC has been a very dangerous team on the transition. They shown it in the last game against Phil, but in this one it was reverse. It was the Whitecaps the one that was being very clinical whenever they go on the transitional moment. Uvik then puts one into the stands in the first minute of stoppage time, but we do head to halftime with Vancouver leading 2-0, something that I'm pretty sure nobody saw coming up to that point. Now, in the second half, Romero would deny Berhalter from close range. I mean, I will say that no one saw it coming, but I know Vancouver is actually doing very decently in the league play. But what I think is something that no one saw coming is the fact that Vancouver has not done well when they play against some really good team, especially on the road this season. So the fact that they're up 2-0 against LAFC, like it's nobody business, definitely a bit of a surprise up to this point. But in the 48th minute, Romero would deny Berhalter from close before Ahmed would hit it right to Romero. Bomer would then rob Bogusz from close range in the 55th minute. I gotta say, Isaac Bomer, he was definitely chaining his Dane Sinclair in this moment. He was refused to be being making some big save as well. And I also wouldn't be surprised he might get another look in this game because, Takaoka, I mentioned how he's kind of been struggling this season at time. I wouldn't be surprised if Bowman gets another chance, especially he looked pretty good in this game. Well, he actually looked good up to this moment where he almost made a big mistake here because in the 68th minute, Bogusz had a shot that was clear off the line after Bowman basically ran into his own teammate. Some miscommunication there. He ran into his own teammate, dropped the ball in a dangerous position, and the ball was loose. And Vancouver is very fortunate that it didn't go into the back of that. And again, Mateusz Bogusz, up to that point, he looked like he was snake bin because that's a chance that you usually see Mateusz Bogusz bury, but it was clear off the line. And as the time winds down, LAFC is just trying every way to try to get one back. Vancouver was defending vigorously. And then in the 87th minute, LAFC gets a lifeline. As Kai Kamara would score for Bawanga to make it 2-1 in favor of Vancouver. So what is one thing you definitely don't want to do when you're defending Kai Kamara? Do not let him get even an inch of space, and especially him being up there first, leaping up in the air to head it away because we know Kai Kamara, between him and Christian Benteke, probably the most dangerous aerial threat in MLS this year. And here it was just a simple ball into the box, and Kai Kamara just the first one to leap up in the air and hit that one away. And just like that, there was life for LAFC. Bomer then denied Martinez from long range. Again, momentum was all with LAFC. You can see Vancouver was starting to really, they were really on the ropes. We then had some coming together after Martinez caught Bomer on the follow up there. Yeah, you're obviously going to draw a crowd when you decided to caught the goalkeeper there. But in the 5th minute stoppage time, Levante Johnson had a chance to seal this one, but he missed that one. Why in the 5th minute stoppage time? That would be huge too, because literally right on the other end, Mateus Bogusz would score from David Martinez to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And yeah, Leeds Cup After Dark is in full effect because just a second ago it looked like Johnson was going to get all 3 points for Vancouver and get that sealing third goal. But next thing you know, LAFC go on the other end. They score on the other end. Now, Vanni Sartini was absolutely livid about this. They did go to VAR to check to see whether or not if it was onside, and I can only think maybe there was a Vancouver player that was down near the bottom of the screen that kept Bogusz in an onside position, because if that is not the case, that is offside. I mean, I look on the replay, unless if there's a white cap player down there on the screen, which I think that it looked like there is. I mean, they didn't really show a lot of replay. I think they only show like one or two replay Apple TV has, and obviously I don't blame the fact that Vanni Sartini and Vancouver fans are absolutely upset. I mean, this is the same team that they lost last year in Game 2 of the Western Conference fine, or in the Western Conference first round that got Vanni Sartini absolutely fuming and made some very derogatory kind of comments in the post game conference. Though I don't know if he made that same comments after this. But one thing for sure is that he did get sent off at the full time whistle. He was absolute, like he basically went almost a very similar tirade than he did in that game against LAFC that ended Vancouver season. So with that being said, we go to a PK shootout because, like I said, in the Leeds Cup, every game has to end with a winner. And as I mentioned even before with the Chivas versus Quakes game, if there's one redeeming factor for the Whitecaps is that they can still redeem themselves in the PK shootout, and that's exactly what they did. As Laporta win the PK shootout for the Whitecaps after Bogusz and Kamara both missed the penalty. Kind of ironic the fact that those two guys were the one that get LAFC back into this game and get themselves to this moment, and both of them missed their PK. The good news though for LAFC is that even with this draw, that was enough for them to advance into the round of 32 with a point. But yeah, in the end, the Whitecaps, they do win this one. But again, this is what I said earlier about Montreal. That I'm gonna say the same thing about Vancouver. Not getting all those free points is that gonna come back to haunt them. The good news is they need to do is get a win against Cholos, and they'll also join LAFC in terms of moving on to the next round. Actually, they don't even need to get a win against Cholo. A draw would be enough for them to make it into the next round. But if they don't get a draw out of this one and they lose that game, then Cholos would be the one that move on into the next round, and them not getting that 3 points could come back to to haunt them. But the shots in this one, 20 shots compared to 15 that Vancouver has, 4 shots on goal for the 9 that LAFC had, 4 shots off target for the 5 that the Whitecaps had. Both teams had 5 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 66% possession compared to 34% possession the Whitecaps has in this game. Now, looking at the other 2 games that happened yesterday, so as I mentioned before, we saw the first elimination of this Leagues Cup, and it happened in this game between the Red Bulls and Pachuca. So the Red Bulls, they knew that they had to win this game if they stay alive. They don't do it. They lose in the PK shootout, which feels like that's a very Metro moment to lose in to get themselves eliminated. In fact, their last couple of times they get eliminated in the playoffs or even in the Leagues Cup tournament has all came from the penalty spot. I mean, it's only fitting that the Red Bulls would do it that way because there's a reason why that's so Metro narrative has been a narrative that's been strong since 1996. But in this game, in the first half, there was no goal, though there probably should have been because there was a moment in the 9th minute, and this would be right up there in terms of the craziest moment and one of the worst goal to concede. Probably right up there in terms of the Armo Tarek own goal that Austin scored against Valletta. And I'm sorry, Austin fans watching this. You knew I had to mention that every time there's a bad goal that is being given up. But yeah, this was a moment where the Pachuca goalkeeper, he basically just kind of went AFK when he thought that the ball was going to go out of play. Instead, it stayed in play, and Lewis Morgan had a chance to slot it into the empty net. And yeah, that would have been probably one of the most embarrassing moment, and maybe the end up in the Sports Center not top 10 kind of moment if that goal did went in. It didn't, fortunately for Pachuca, though they did give up a goal in the 47th minute. Manuel did score from Morgan to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead. The lead didn't last long because Pachuca would tie it up, and guess who tied the game up? It's Salomon Rondon. He's started becoming an absolute killer for MLS team now, and he scored here from Gonzalez to tie the game up at 1 apiece. They went to a PK shootout. It went 6 rounds, but De Los Rios would win the PK shootout for Pachuca after Dylan Nealis missed in round number 6. And then in the other game, so this is a game where I think we're now start to see that maybe MLS Team Dominance over Liga MX's opponent is for real. Because one of the big thing we've been kind of question is, yes, MLS Team has been able to beat Liga MX's opponent, but most of these Liga MX team are kind of mid-range kind of team. What's going to happen when they do face against the like of Pachuca and Rayados? Can they, of course, keep it up? Well, the Red Bulls did try to do so. They fell in the PK shootout. But Austin didn't. I mean, and in some way, this feel like it was a repeat of the Austin versus Pumas game where Austin didn't have a lot of chances, but that's what Austin is all about. Like honestly, whenever Austin gets involved in a game where they don't get a lot of chances, they're getting absolutely outshot, and the expectancy number are completely against them. You know they're gonna win the game because that's how it is this season. And that's what happened in this one. Rayados dominate the expectancy goal. They were by far the better team in this game against Los Verdes, but Los Verdes get the win. A 2-0 win that they got in the first half. There was no goal. In the second half, we saw the first goal from O'Brien. He scored from Gallagher to give Austin a 1-0 lead. And then the second goal, man, what a goal this is. No, not just from Danny Pereira, but for Owen Wolf, just completely destroyed that Rayados midfield. I mean, to be fair, you could kind of argue maybe the defending from Rayados could be better. Well, actually, that's an understatement. The defending from Rayados was just, I mean, that was kind of criminal defending for a team that have won multiple CONCACAF Champions Cup and won multiple Liga MX titles, but still take nothing less in terms of what a great build-up that is for Austin. And again, this is the thing about Austin this year. It just feels like some of these games that they're all number points that they should lose that game and should lose that game by a big margin. They don't. They instead win win those games. And again, it just feels like it's almost like a complete opposite that Austin is doing in this Leagues Cup tournament compared to last season. Remember last season how they got absolutely embarrassed by Juarez and Mazatlan, two Liga MX teams that are like considered to be bottom feeder in Liga MX. Well, now this year when they look like no one gave them a chance to move on in the group of Rayados and Pumas, those two really good team in Liga MX. Now Austin is doing the opposite. And again, it makes no sense, but that's how Austin and how Josh Wolf team like it. They don't need you to make sense. They just somehow need you to believe that we can somehow, against all odds, keep doing this and kind of BS our way all the way to it. And honestly, if this is going to be the case, I would not be surprised if Austin make it to the final. Like honestly, with all these crazy devil magic and just ridiculous this kind of odds that they overcome like they did against Pumas, being a man down, and then now taking down a Rayados team that is considered to be one of the favorites of winning this tournament. Do not be surprised if Austin might go really deep and make it all the way to the final, because that's kind of seems like it could be something that could be on the cards. I mean, in tournament play, you obviously rely on some skill and the quality of some team, but you need to also have luck on your side. And Austin definitely has a lot of luck on their side with the way they play in their first two game against these Liga MX opponent. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all of these games. So yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all these games. We got another I think 6 games action that's going to be happening in the Leeds Cup tonight. Although one of them is an all Liga MX kind of matchup, so I won't really mention that matchup because I only mentioned Leeds Cup matchup that involve an MLS team versus a Liga MX team, or if it's an all MLS kind of affair that we've seen so far in this tournament. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.